Are you feeling like a volcano of emotion bursting into, and you don't know why you're sobbing and mourning? Do you feel like loss, beloved, a loss of identity, and or you feel stuck and then you don't know what's happening with you? Why am I feeling all those symptoms that I'm feeling? So you're not alone, beloved. It is happening throughout the planet. It's a phenomenal spiritual awakening of the grand opening of the Anahata, the heart chakra. And this video, Devi Ma will go in depth about 5 mystical symptoms and experiences, mystical experiences associated with the opening of the heart chakra. And many of you maybe know or don't know, when the heart is opening, it is a phenomenal experience, but could be very traumatizing if you're not aware of what are the symptoms. But there are also mystical experiences related to it. So this video will delve deep into this. So stay tuned. And what's so wonderful, this is a series of 4 very empowering, insightful video over 4 consecutive weeks. And it will be focusing on the mystical experiences and symptoms related to as the energy is moving from one major chakra to the next one. So this one is the Anahata, the heart opening, very different energy, very different. Then after that, the Vishuddhi, the throat chakra, the Ajna, the third eye, and then the crown lotus, which is the 1,000 petal lotus, what we call in the yogic tradition, the Sahasrara. So what is, first of all, divine feminine energy, Kundalini Shakti? When you go through a spiritual Kundalini ascension, many people are not familiar with those terms. Kundalini Shakti is just the primordial life force energy that is at the very base root of your perineum in the Muladhara. I won't go into all the details because this is a phenomenal subject. We have a lot of video on this subject on Sri Devi Mayi Ma. Look into the link for the description. We have put some special link for you so you can become more educated or empower yourself with more knowledge and especially some insight if some of you don't know what they are. What is Kundalini? Kundalini is a phenomenal energy of what we call in the yogic tradition of the Divine Mother. The divine feminine energy is not what you may believe, beloved, because that's a big myth. Many people think it's just, it represents a gender, but it has nothing to do with it. So what is the first symptom and mystical experiences related to? Number 1 is it's an opening of a new dimension. Many people don't realize the Anahata is really the bridge between the very fundamental existence of this realm, the physicality, and to move to a new dimension that is of the beyond, of the physicality. So many things happen at that level when the Anahata open. And the mystical experiences can be really phenomenal. I have received many emails. I have worked with some beloved one who often you can experience the energy blocking, where you feel like you have pain, physical pain, and you don't know why. You have a hard time breathing. But it's important to mention that through that first phase is the healing of the wounded inner child. A lot of trauma is being healed. Trauma, wounds, not just from this lifetime, but also from many lifetimes. A lot of people think it's only this lifetime, but it can be so many lifetimes. So that's the beginning of that stage. And what's very important to know also, you can linger into this phase of the opening of the Anahata for 1 year, 6 months, very unlikely, but maybe a whole decade. And some beloved can be in it for a whole lifetime. It all depends on the individual, the karmic structure, individual openness, receptivity, and vulnerability, depending on so many factors. So healing of the wounds, and if you haven't watched that video on how to heal your inner wounded child and what your wounded inner child needs to hear, right now in this moment, right after this video, we have this video coming up for you. So for some of you who are just starting to awaken and at that level will be extremely insightful. So, but mystical experiences at that level is that you could have vision of your past life, and you can even recollect it, very specific faces. And I remember for this one, when I went through that and it happened, it was so furious. It was many decades ago. I'll share a few brief story. When I was initiated into a certain Kriya long ago, and it was so intense. And as I collapsed on the ground, I saw dozens of faces. They were all Indian faces, and I could recognize all of them. And they were all above my being as they were looking down. And what came after, when I came out of that process, was incredibly intense, was I realized there was a past life, and I knew every faces. And it was like at the end when I was leaving my body. And I knew those people, and they were all Indian. Another very powerful experience was, I went into a state of samadhi, very profound, where I was completely one with all of existence. And out of a sudden, I had a vision of a sadhu. He was wearing a white cloth and he was bald. And I was completely one with him. And I couldn't see clearly. It's not like you can see, but there is an inner recognition. And when I came out of the samadhi, as I was coming out from that intense spiritual process, I started sobbing and mourning like crazy. And it was only many years later I realized, I felt like the inner knowing is that I believe there was my being, it was myself in a past life. I thought at first was maybe someone I was with, but it came 10 years later, I got the recognition that was my own being. So many things could happen. Number 2, mystical experience and symptom is there is a tremendous expansion of consciousness. And as the new gate, the new dimension has opened, is like you start feeling like it's a process of dissolution. Everything is melting about you. A tremendous amount of karma is burned. All the karmic structure of the impression, the samskara and the tendency, the vasana, everything starts burning off. And then so it started opening a sense of deep connection with the universe and with all living beings. And it's breaking the boundaries of ignorance. Remember, from ignorance to enlightenment, from untruth to truth, darkness to light, ignorance to enlightenment. So pushing boundaries of ignorance, dissolving personality, ego, let go of everything you have accumulated, everything was conditioned, you let go. Mystical experiences associated with that. You have a deep sense of oneness, out-of-body experience. How can you put this into words? It's impossible. Where you feel like light and you start feeling that you expanding your boundaries and you feel connected to all living beings. It's very experiential. You expand, you are starting to experience what it is your true nature. You get a glimpse of who you truly are. Siddha, Satchit Kriyananda, Satchit Ananda, you true divine bliss nature. You experience your divine presence. And so the biggest mystical experience is here. You look like a weirdo. You look like a manic depressive in the eyes of some people because they think you are unbalanced. They think you're either psychotic or neurotic because you vacillate from tremendous bursting of emotional volcano and you don't know what they're coming from. They are just purification from your past karma, and then you go into full bliss, ecstasy, and it could happen within like many times within one day. And you might even think you're going crazy, but beloved, you're not going crazy. This is absolutely natural as the grand opening of the Anahata is opening up, and Mahashakti, Kundalini Shakti, the primordial energy is making her way up, going up, up, up in the higher chakra. Number 3, you become out of a sudden, out of nowhere, super ultra sensitive and vulnerable. In the eye of the world, you look like you are completely insane because you go through like intense purification. Ego is falling, personality is falling, and then you become so vulnerable for no reason, and you mourn and sob for no apparent reason. And you think, if you don't know what you're going through, you think you're going completely insane. And maybe some people might call you a weirdo, you don't know. And you go through those volcano of explosion of emotion, and you don't even know why. What's so phenomenal about this stage, because it could be for a whole lifetime, it depends on the person, is that you're starting to tap into this new dimension because you let go of all you have accumulated, all that doesn't serve you, and little by little you're going towards the next symptoms. But before we go, that is here, the mystical experiences, you might start experiencing some smell, ethereal smells, out of nowhere, you don't know why. I'm not saying it will happen to you, I'm just explaining that what might be associated in terms of mystical experiences. Because a lot of people who email or work with Devi Ma, they say, am I going crazy? Ma, what's happening with me? I'm experiencing, I hear sound like ethereal music, and you're opening a new dimension. And so you'll start to become very aware of a higher realm of reality. And you might experience some disembodied beings or celestial beings. I have had so many of those experiences, and many of them are in my book. But it's like you're not going insane. This is a natural, because you are expanding into a new dimension. And so, which leads to the number 4, is the loss of identity. You don't know who you are anymore. You have lost that personality that you had fabricated, all that self-fabricated cage that you have put yourself into a box is been dismantled, it's been demolished. Out of a sudden, it's like you go through identity crisis, you don't know who you are. And as you go to that stage, if you let go of all attachment, and then you really surrender deep, it starts opening even more that new dimension of reality, and that you just surrender and you trust and have faith. And here is the symptoms, the mystical experiences, is that you can even go deeper into experiencing the oneness, the connection, feeling in a complete state of samadhi, a state of equanimity where you feel everything, you're part and connected to everything. It's not a physical, it's not an intellectual thing, it's experiential. You go really deep into a state of samadhi, deep, and you experience everything yourself as yourself. You go into a state where you feel like you're out of your body. It's hard to put into words. It's complete oneness, where we say a deep connection. I went into that stage one time. In those days, I feel like that pretty much all the time. But way back then, the first time I experienced that, I was in an intense spiritual process and I went in complete samadhi. And there are many different kinds of samadhi, and subject for another video, which I have talked in a few of them in previous video. But this was like, and then I was lying and looking at the sky, my eyes were open, and I felt like, it's not I, it is the energy was everywhere in the sky. I did not know if I was the bird. I did not know if I was the ocean, the cloud passing by, if it was the wind. I was in everything, in the wind, the sky, and there was no sensation of physical body anymore. In a complete expansion. This is a kind of sadhana, a kind of samadhi. Complete samadhi, not sadhana. Devi Ma used the wrong word, samadhi. And it can happen anytime, at many times throughout this phase of the grand opening of the Anahata. It could linger for many years, even a whole lifetime. And as you go deeper into the opening of the Anahata, it's a beautiful expansion of consciousness where you start experiencing a state of complete ecstasy, which brings us to the fifth one. The fifth mystical experience related to that symptom is outbursts of creative energy. You go completely insane. I remember when I went to that stage was so many decades ago. Either it will be expressed, because Kundalini Shakti, the divine feminine energy, is all about creating, manifesting in the cosmos. So when this energy flow into your Anahata, you burst out. You start either painting, whatever that is your endeavor. It could be writing poetry, writing screenplay, composing music, or writing prose. I went through that decade. Oh my God, it was painting. Like, I painted, I became a professional artist. I welcome you to come and see the painting on Davy's Grace. And my heart was in some art gallery, even in some museum. But what's important, beloved, in that experience is, what is mystical about this is that you lose yourself into your creative endeavor. You become one with what you're creating. And I remember, I'll share a little story. In my studio in those days, I was listening to a new CD, and it was one of the collection of the Buddha's Bar, and it was Jay Utah music. And in that song, there was a verse where he used the Guru Puja verse, which is in Sanskrit. The Guru Puja is an ancient chant, really powerful, where you express your loving devotion to the Creator by making offering to all the ascended master. It's very beautiful. And I did not know, I had never heard Sanskrit, nothing. And out of a sudden, I heard the 3 major verses of the Guru Puja. And as I heard it, I started chanting, and they were just flowing out of my mouth, like if I had chanted them all my life. Can you imagine, beloved? And I went in complete ecstasy, and I was tripping with ecstasy, and I was painting. And it was such a phenomenal, mystical experience. I was experiencing my true divine presence. Sat Chit Ananda. Sat for absolute truth. Chit, omnipotent, omnipresence, without no boundary, is impermanent change, and Ananda is pure bliss and ecstasy. So it can happen to you, and with that process you have a lot of inner knowing and revelation that your work, if either writing, will reveal to you. It's about discovering and realizing your true divine presence, your true nature. It's a phenomenal mystical experiences. So those are the 5 major symptoms of the grand opening of the Anahata associated with the mystical experiences. So if you found this video valuable, please share it with your friends and family, and subscribe, and especially leave the notification bell on, because next week, stay tuned, we're going to have this, because this is a series. Remember, next week will be about the throat chakra. What's happening when the energy moves to the throat chakra into the Vishuddhi, and what are the mystical experiences associated with that. And what is it for you in this video that you feel like it resonated? Where are you? At which stage are you? Or are you just starting your spiritual awakening? What is it that really resonated with you? Write it down in the comments section. And stay tuned, because this series will empower you with so many benefits of understanding, having insight, and clarity about why are you experiencing what you may experience. And the most important thing about remembering about all of this is you have heard it, and just let it go. Don't expect it, because when you expect such a thing to happen, they can become serious obstacle on your spiritual journey. So this is just to empower you, help you to heal, and for transformation, so you don't think that you're going crazy, and don't listen to wherever people say. And I'm here for you.